I call this Onslow County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We will begin tonight with a word of prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hudson.
Please bow with me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you in the precious name of Jesus Christ, and we ask your blessings upon this county and its citizens. Lord, I ask you to please bless this Board of Commissioners and their decision-making this evening for the benefit of the county. And Lord, this evening we're especially reminded of one of our fallen volunteer firefighters, dear Lord, Mr. Preston McDaniel, who died yesterday and left behind a wife and 3 small children. Lord, we just ask you to please bless their family, give the family peace at this time, and Lord, help the community rally around them. We thank you for the time that you gave him to us, dear Father, and now, Lord, while we didn't know him, we know that his family is here left among us. So we just ask you to please bless them as you know best. And dear God, we just thank you for all the many blessings that you've given us. Thank you for all things. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Cotton. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight. I'd like to welcome our sheriff. It's always good to have the lawmen in the house. The Board of Commissioners offers 2 opportunities for the public to speak at public comment. The first opportunity is a 3-minute segment, and as you sign up in the back of the room, you will notice that it says agenda item. At this particular portion of the meeting, you have to speak and keep your comments directed to an item that is on the agenda for board action tonight. The second opportunity comes towards the end of the meeting. That opportunity is for 5 minutes, and you can speak on any subject that this board has authority or control over. We ask that you sign up, take a few minutes to read the literature in the back of the room. When your name is called, come forward. Make sure that the clerk has your name and address properly noted, and address your comments to the board in its entirety. We ask that you keep your comments civil and respectful, and that no endorsement of a business or candidacy is permitted. According to the rules of procedure, the commissioners will not respond to any question at that time. We will respond at commissioner comments. So we ask your indulgence tonight. We have a large crowd, so your conversations may need to be muted so we can all hear what's taking place. If you have not turned your cell phones off, please do so now. At this time, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. This is the first public comment opportunity, and this is the time when you must address an agenda item only. Mr. Manager, do we have anyone signed up for the first 3-minute comment?
Madam Chair, we have no one at the first public comment period.
Okay. At this time, we'll move ahead with the agenda. Could you take items 4, 5, and 6, Mr. Manager?
I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 4, public hearings. There are 3 public hearings scheduled during this meeting. The chairman has directed that I conduct the public hearings. The first is rezoning case LREZ 2016-25. All of these rezonings will follow the same procedure that we normally do. First, we'll have a staff introduction. The planning and development staff will give a brief introduction of this issue. Second, there will be a public hearing that will be opened. During the public hearing, we'll first have an applicant statement, At that time, the applicant is requested to provide a description of the project and any additional information to the board. Followed by the applicant's statement, members of the public that have signed up for that particular rezoning case will be allowed to speak. After everyone has spoken, I will close the public hearing. I'll ask that any speakers please remain, because after the public hearing is closed, there will be a period of commissioner discussion. During commissioner discussion, the commissioners may ask questions of the staff or any members of the public that have spoken. Following commissioner discussion, the item is available for the commissioner's decision, and then the commissioners may take any specific action they would like to take. So during this first case, this LREZ 2016-25, I'll call on Planning and Development Director Ben Warren to give a brief introduction before the public hearing. Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Good evening, Madam Chairman.
Good evening.
The first rezoning case that we have for your consideration this evening is a request to rezone property from RA, Rural Agricultural, to HB, Highway Business. Property owners are Mr. Linwood and Miss Linda Morton. It's parcel identification number 320-11 and includes approximately 2.28 acres. And there have been no environmental issues identified on the property. The property would be served by an Onwassa 6-inch water line, which currently runs along Richlands Highway, and an Onwassa 12-inch sewer force main, which runs along Richlands Highway. The fire service will be provided by Rhodestown Volunteer Fire Department, which has an ISO rating of 7. And the streets providing access are Richlands Highway, which currently has an average annual daily traffic count of 25,000 vehicle trips per day. And the capacity on that network is approximately 30 to 35,000. Taking a look at the property, you can see it's located on the northern side of Highway 258. It's about a mile south of its intersection with Catherine Lake Road, NC 111. We zoom in a little bit closer, taking a look at the zoning vicinity map. You can see the majority of the property surrounding the rezoning site is currently RA, Rural Agricultural. But as you move north towards Catherine Lake Road, you'll see what's really beginning to develop as a commercial node at that intersection with a lot of highway business in that area. Just taking a look at the aerial shot. This one's a couple of years old, but you can see to the south, on the southwestern side of Richlands Highway, we have Eastern Outfitters. Going back north, on the northeast side, we have Dan's Automotive. And now, just north of West Avenue, we have the Friendly Mart and the Family Dollar there as well. So here's a view of the rezoning site from Richlands Highway. See, it's currently used for agricultural purposes. It's a view facing south, and you can see Eastern Outfitters there on the right-hand side of the picture. And a view facing back north, and you can see the Dan's Automotive on the right, and in the middle, you can see the signs for both the Family Dollar and the Friendly Mart. So taking a look at the two districts, the existing RA zoning district is primarily intended for agricultural and residential purposes, although there are a number of uses that are allowed that are non-residential in nature to support the more rural areas of the county, kind of a community business type aspect of the district. It has a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet with no maximum density, as compared to the highway business, which is primarily used to develop commercial and retail type uses along the county's primary thoroughfares. It has no minimum lot size and no maximum density, and the types of uses allowed are primarily non-residential in nature. And the future land use map. Currently, it recommends medium density residential for this area with some conservation and agricultural to the north. A couple of things to keep in mind with the future land use map. It is about 8.5, 9 years old. And at the time it was developed, there was no sewer capability along Richlands Highway. So one thing that staff is in the process of right now is going back and restudying this area of the county to see what impacts the emergence of sewer along the corridor has, and really seeing how this corridor would be used for non-residential purposes going forward. And as you saw in that first map, really in the vicinity of Catherine Lake Road, it's already started to develop for highway business and non-residential type uses. And as you recall, over the last 6 months, I believe this is the third rezoning we've had in this general area around Catherine Lake Road and Richlands Highway. Looking at the recommendations in the comprehensive plan, highway business is not a corresponding zoning district for the recommended medium density residential. However, the presence of a commercial node and the commercial activity centers such as this are consistent with the policies and recommendations in the comprehensive plan. So considering that the plan hasn't been updated, consider the new infrastructure in place and the policies that are recommended for locating commercial nodes, staff did find that the recommended rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use maps. And it would also be considered reasonable and in the public's interest as a result of the existing zoning and the existing land uses in the vicinity of the rezoning site. Oops. And for those reasons, staff has recommended approval of the rezoning request. As well, the planning board recommended unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning request at their meeting. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hudson for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. This time, I'll open the public hearing for rezoning case LREZ 2016-25. If there is an applicant here or a representative of the applicant, please come forward at this time. Please state your name and your relationship to the applicant for the record.
My name is Chris Jarman, and I have no relationship, just a friend.
Okay, are you representing the applicant tonight, sir?
Yes, I am. I was the applicant, signed and got it signed by them, so I am the applicant, I guess.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Morton contacted me last year wanting to maximize the value of his property and hope to make some future income, and knew I had done that in the past, so I've took on the challenge of trying to help him get it rezoned from RA to HB in hopes of making future income from it. That's it.
Thank you, sir. With the applicant having given a statement, we'll now open up to the members of the public. There are no individuals that have signed up to speak regarding this issue, so I'll make a call to the audience. If there's any person in the audience that would like to speak regarding LREZ 2016-25, now would be the time to please come forward to the podium. Once again, if there's any member of the audience that didn't get a chance to sign up and would like to speak regarding this case LREZ 2016-25, please come forward to the podium. With no one signed up and no individuals coming forward to the podium, the public hearing is hereby closed. Madam Chair, this item is now available for commissioner discussion and possible action.
Second.
I have a motion. Is there any discussion, any questions of either the applicant or Mr. Warren?
I have one, Madam Chair. Mr. Warren, during the planning board meeting and staff meeting, did anybody show up that had surrounding property that had any comments about the rezoning issue?
No, sir, we haven't had any concerns or inquiries on the proposed rezoning.
Very well.
Madam Chair, I do have a question. Jackie stole my thunder because that was one of the questions that I had. And in addition to that, I was just wondering, since this site is being rezoned and we're moving towards more of the retail end of it and the businesses, the previous rezonings that have taken place, have there been any issues with that in the past? And I hear, as Jack stated and asked that question of you already, that has not been the case here. So I'm just wondering that overall view of what we're doing in that area.
No, ma'am.
No,
One of those
in that
rezoning
area.
sites is now the site of the Dollar General. Another one is currently vacant, but we haven't had any fallout or negative feedback on any of those rezonings that have occurred.
That's awesome. Thank
I
you,
live out
Madam
in that
Chair.
area and I've heard not anything.
Okay.
I've heard nothing.
Mr. Warren, we do need to perhaps go back and relook at our plans for that area since Onwassa has that sewer line. I believe it's going to change the outlook of that corridor. So,
Yes, ma'am.
hearing nothing further, all in favor say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ben.
Mr. Warren, if you'll just stay right there. Item B, rezoning case LREZ 2016-28. This is also a rezoning request and will follow the exact same pattern as we did before. We'll begin with a staff introduction by Mr. Warren. Mr. Warren, please begin.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. The second rezoning request that we have for your consideration is to rezone property from R10 residential to RA rural agricultural. Property owners are Philip and Kimberly Gary. The parcel is 328-77 and includes approximately 0.59 acres. The southeastern corner of the parcel is currently located in the AE flood zone, but there are no wetland areas identified on the property. There's an Onwassa 8-inch water line that currently runs along Gum Branch Road and would provide service to the site, and there is no sewer available in the area. The fire service will be provided by Half Moon Volunteer Fire Department, and the streets providing access will be Gum Branch Road, which currently has an average annual daily traffic count of approximately 19,000 vehicle trips per day. And with this being a 3-lane highway, the typical capacity for this type of roadway network would be around 15 to 18,000, so it is slightly above recommended capacity. Schools providing service to the site, Summerhill Elementary, which is under capacity in the current school year, and Northwoods Park Middle and Jacksonville High, which are both slightly over capacity for the current school year. Here's a zoomed out look at the area. You can see the property is about a half mile south of the intersection of Ramsey Road and Gum Branch Road, and directly across from Edgewood Drive and Gum Branch Road. So we look at the surrounding vicinity zoning map. You can see the majority of the property that's in this green color is currently zoned RA. And then as we look up, going back towards Ramsey Road, on the eastern side of Gum Branch, we have a lot of highway business. And then going back south towards Jacksonville, you start to see a lot of highway business on both sides of Gum Branch Road. And looking at the aerial view, you can see just to the north of the rezoning site, we have the, I believe it's called Swinging Things, golf course and batting cage. Just south is Top Gun Tires and the Kangaroo Express gas station. And there again, kind of a commercial node at Ramsey Road, kind of heading back towards Jacksonville. Here's a view of the rezoning site itself. It's currently occupied with a single-family dwelling. A view facing back south towards the city of Jacksonville. You can see Top Gun Tire there in the distance. And a view facing back north towards Ramsey Road with the Swinging Things off to the left, and farther north we have a self-storage and a Family Dollar. So looking at the district comparison, the R10 district is primarily for single-family and multifamily type uses, has a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet and a maximum density of 4 dwelling units per acre, so right in that kind of medium to high density residential. And the RA zoning district, by contrast, is primarily for residential and agricultural type uses, which has a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet with no maximum density, but it does have some of those non-residential type uses that can be allowed on the site as well. The future land use map captures this area partially in the rural residential category as well as the conservation category. And as we look at the recommended RA zoning, it is a zoning district that's listed as a compatible district for the rural residential category. Looking at the proposed RA, being that it's really a mixture of residential and non-residential type uses, it is consistent with the existing zoning and land uses within the close proximity of the rezoning site. So for that reason, staff did recommend approval of the rezoning request. The planning board also made a unanimous recommendation for approval of the rezoning request. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hudson for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. At this time, I'll open the public hearing for rezoning case LREZ 2016-28. I'll ask if the applicant is present to give additional information to the board. If the applicant is present, please come forward. Thank you. Please state your name and your relationship to the applicant. At the podium. Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Hey, my name is Stacy Moretti. I am the sister of Kimberly Gary, and I'm representing them in this. Just want me to tell? Okay. We are wanting to change that property into a salon, greatly improve the look of the property, and it'll be an upgrade to the area.
Does that conclude your statement, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
The applicant's made her statement. At this time, I'll call upon members of the public that might wish to speak regarding this public hearing on LREZ 2016-28. The first individual that signed up was Ms. Stacy Moretti, who has just spoken. There are no other individuals that have signed up, so I'll make a call to the audience. If any member of the audience would like to speak regarding this rezoning case, please come forward at this time. Once again, if any member of the audience would like to speak regarding LREZ 2016-28, please come forward at this time. With no one having signed up on the sign-up sheet and no members of the audience coming forward, the public hearing is hereby closed. Madam Chair, this item is available for Commissioner consideration and possible action.
Approve request. Second.
Discussion? If I could get Mr. Warren, I just have more of a curiosity question. Ben, I know the applicant chooses the request that they make, but would not this have been better highway business or community business rather than RA or?
I think either zoning district would support the request that they are, or the use that they have in mind. I think that, not sure why they chose the RA over the highway business, but either one of those would suit the use that they have intended for the site.
Okay.
And both of those, RA and highway business, like you saw, are already existing in the area and are both consistent with what's in place right now.
Yeah. Well, we usually see people requesting rezoning away from RA. That's why I was just curious.
Yes, ma'am.
But thanks.
That's good if they want it.
Yeah. What's the pleasure of the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you for staying, Mr. Warren. The next one's yours as well. Item C, text amendment case LTXA 2016-1. This is slightly different. This is a text amendment case, not a rezoning case. So if you would, please go ahead with the staff introduction of the text amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. The request that staff received was from Ken and Monica Davis, and it was to add taxidermy as a use allowed within the Onslow County zoning ordinance. So there are three sections of the ordinance that would be amended by this request. The first would be Article 18, which essentially establishes taxidermy as a use, or defines taxidermy as a use. The proposed definition would read, taxidermy, a facility or establishment engaged in the practice of preparing, stuffing, and mounting the skin or pelt of a deceased animal. This may also include the incidental processing of animal meat. So establishing the definition. The second would be to amend Article 19, establishing taxidermy as an allowed use. So the request is to allow it as an allowed use with special requirements in the RA zoning district and as an outright allowed use in the highway business, community business, and light industrial zoning districts. And finally, it would be to amend Article 14 to add special requirements to the use in the RA zoning district. And it was selected to add to Section 1406.9, just looking at the uses that are already captured in that area of special requirements, this use was fairly consistent with those types of uses. So essentially what that would do would be, it would require that the property owner or the business owner live on the property, have a minimum setback of 50 feet, and has some signage requirements and other minimal requirements that would apply to the use. Staff was evaluating the proposed text amendment. I said first we wanted to look at what types of impacts it could have to the surrounding property owners. With the taxidermy use, it's a use that's primarily enclosed within a structure. So really the concerns were what would be done with any type of animal waste and also with chemicals used in the taxidermy process. So as we evaluated that further, what we found was that both of those issues are currently regulated by the state. The North Carolina Wildlife would address the animal waste issue, and the Center for Disease Control would regulate the use of chemicals. And theirs were a lot stronger than anything we would have in place. So we went ahead and added a few additional requirements to that we felt would mitigate any potential impacts to any adjacent property owners. And so that is what we have for your consideration this evening. With that, I'll turn it to Mr. Hudson for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. This time I'll open the public hearing on text amendment case LTXA 2016-1. There are no individuals that have signed up for the public hearing, so I'll make a call to the audience. If any member of the audience did not have a chance to sign up but would like to, applicant first, if the individual or individuals that proposed the text amendment are in the audience who would like to speak, please come forward at this time. No one signed up on the sheet, but if the applicant is here requesting the text amendment, you may come forward. Okay, thank you. With the applicant not present at this time, I will make a call to the audience. No one signed up, but if anyone would like to speak regarding LTXA 2016-1, please come to the podium at this time. Once again, a second call for anyone that would like to come to the podium to speak regarding text amendment case LTXA 2016-1. With no one signed up to speak and no one coming to the podium, the public hearing is hereby closed. This item is now available for commissioner discussion and possible action.
Board's pleasure.
So moved. Zoning text amendment.
A second on the text amendment.
Second.
Any discussion?
I got one question for Mr. Warren about this. When we changed the amendment to allow this in RA and all the other districts, does that open the door for anybody in an RA district to apply for permits for taxidermy, or?
Yes, sir, it
So it
would.
opens it up for these other categories too?
It would, specifically in the RA zoning district, if anyone were to come in and apply, those special requirements would apply to those applicants. Within the highway business, community business, or light industrial, it would be a use that would be approved outright.
That category wasn't ever allowed in any of the other, it wasn't allowed in the text amendment until we approve it now?
Yes, sir, that's
Okay.
correct.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any further, more questions? All in favor of the text amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Moving to item 5, general items. Item A is interim county attorney. Following the board's initial budget workshop, the county commissioners directed that we take some fairly significant measures in order to try to balance the budget. 16 positions were eliminated from county government. The individuals that were occupying those positions, in the case of occupied positions, were all subjected to reductions in force. And in addition, the county's law office, internal law office, was shut down. That happened on April 18th, 2016. At that time, the commissioners made a motion to immediately move from an in-house county attorney to an attorney on retainer. General Statute 153A-114 states, "The Board of Commissioners shall appoint a county attorney at its pleasure and to be its legal advisor. It is necessary for the board to hire a county attorney on an interim basis." What staff is actually presenting to the board and would recommend is that the commissioners consider a legal firm that agrees up front that they will not seek the longer-term appointment of county attorney. This would allow an interim-only attorney to be in place for a period not to exceed 3 months, and the purchasing department would then go out with a request for proposal and solicit proposals from law firms that would like to be the county's attorney. The commissioners could then evaluate those different proposals at its pleasure and to be its legal advisor. And whereas Onslow County is without a county attorney as of April 18, 2016, due to a motion made to immediately move from an in-house county attorney to an attorney on retainer. Whereas the Board of Commissioners desires to hire a county attorney on an interim basis. And whereas the county manager is recommending that the Board of Commissioners appoint Garris Neal Yarborough, and in his absence, a member of Mr. Yarborough's law firm of Yarborough, Winters, and Neville, PA, for a period not to exceed 3 months. And whereas Mr. Yarborough and his firm have the necessary experience to serve as the Onslow County Attorney on an interim basis. Now therefore be it resolved that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners appoints Garris Neal Yarborough as the Onslow County Attorney on an interim basis as described above. With this appointment, the Board of Commissioners gives Mr. Yarborough the full authority to act as this attorney and to advise staff on legal matters. Commissioners, the reason this is presented to you is, first of all, Mr. Yarborough's firm is located in Cumberland County. He is not local and will not seek a longer-term appointment as county attorney, truly leveling the playing field for any firms that would be interested. In addition, the law firm of Mr. Yarborough, Winters, and Neville, PA, has extensive local government experience. Mr. Yarborough himself has been the Cumberland County attorney, and other members of his firm have served as attorneys in towns and other counties. Right now, he is currently also serving Lee County as a county attorney. Commissioners, that concludes my report.
What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve the authorization of the chairman to execute the resolution on behalf of the board.
And I have a second from Ms. Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item B, establishing a public hearing on the closing of an old county road. I ask Mr. Ben Warren to come forward to present this item to the board. Mr. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Staff received a petition recently from Mr. Timothy Carr to close a portion of the old Duck Creek Starling Road. And this was essentially a cut-through road from Sand Ridge Road to NC Highway 172. It's a road that hasn't been in service for many years, and as you look at a copy of the map in your packet, you can see it's really no signs or traces of the existence of a road. North Carolina General Statute 153A-241 provides the authority for counties to permanently close any public road or easement within its jurisdiction, so long as it's not currently under the supervision of NCDOT. The first step in that process would be for the board to establish a public hearing to receive any comments from anyone who may be aggrieved by the closing of this portion of the road. So the request this evening is for the board to adopt a resolution, thereby establishing a public hearing on June the 20th at the regular meeting.
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Do I have a motion to establish June 20th as the public hearing? A second?
Second.
Ben, before I ask for a vote, there's no indication that that road is being used by the public or emergency vehicles or any escape route or emergency secondary escape or anything?
No, ma'am. One section outside of Mr. Carr's property to the south is currently occupied with a manufactured home park, and areas to the north are primarily wooded at this time. So it's been out of service for a number of years.
Okay, well, if anybody comes forward, it's June 20th. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Item C, final acceptance of the 800 megahertz radio system project. I ask Mr. Norman Bryson, Emergency Services Director, to come forward and present this item to the board. Director Bryson.
Good evening, Commissioners. On November 12, 2012, Onslow County entered into a contract with Motorola Solutions, Inc. to construct an emergency communications 800 megahertz Project 25 compliant radio system. The project scope included the construction of 3 new radio towers with upgrades to 2 existing radio towers, as well as adding additional supporting infrastructure and redundant backup systems and infrastructure that will support it. Motorola has completed the project scope of work, including the required testing of the system. Onslow County, the City of Jacksonville, and all emergency partners are now operating on this radio system. Motorola Solutions, Inc. is requesting the county sign the final acceptance acknowledgement for the 800 megahertz system. The City of Jacksonville, Onslow County Communication Operating and Maintenance Board, otherwise known as the COM Board, met and voted unanimously by members present to recommend the Onslow County Board of Commissioners and the City of Jacksonville Council to accept the final acceptance acknowledgement. After the county executes the final acceptance acknowledgement, Motorola, Inc. will send the final payment application associated with the 800 megahertz project. The original budget cost of the project was $8,663,093. The final actual construction cost and estimate is to be $8,571,021.01, which is $92,071.99 under budget. We are respectfully requesting a consideration for a motion to authorize the county manager and chairman to execute the necessary documents associated with the final acceptance of the 800 megahertz system.
Board's pleasure.
Motion to approve.
And second? Norm, I'd just like to say I am thrilled to hear the words "under budget." 92,000. Are we sure we got all the nuts and bolts that we were supposed to get?
We have gone through the list and gone through them twice. We have done extensive amount of testing, and one thing that has taken us this long to get done is the testing. In our project scope, we required that our final testing actually be conducted when we have full foliage on the trees. So it would not be conducted in the wintertime to make sure that we do reach the 95% in-building coverage that we're supposed to have with this system. So that took a little bit longer time with having the additional testing in there. But yes, ma'am, we are under budget and we do have what we're supposed to have.
Great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Norm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before moving to the next item, item D, one final note on the item that Mr. Bryson just presented. We are pleased that the board worked to bring that under budget. We do have budgeted in the county's budget for next fiscal year $480,000 for the maintenance contract on that radio system. The warranty is now expired, and because it only lasts so long. And now we're placing that radio system that you just approved the final approval of under maintenance contract. And that will be a continuing year-by-year maintenance contract. That was just a note on that last item. The next item is Consolidated Human Services Capital Project Change Order. Ms. Sherry Slater, Assistant County Manager for Consolidated Human Services, will present this item to the board.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. As you know, in November of 2015, we began construction on the Consolidated Human Services building. As with any construction project, before we actually got started with the building, we had to get the ground ready and had to make several improvements to the utility infrastructure in the area where the building is being built. As a result of that, we ran into a number of problems with an aging utility infrastructure and several problems in the street due to that infrastructure being so old that most of it wasn't properly mapped on the maps that we were using from the planning department. So this change order number 4, is within the capital project budget. It's not additional funds that we're asking for. We're just moving funds to cover this change order. They're within the contingency funds at this time. And we are almost completely out of the street, so hopefully we're past most of these hurdles.
Okay. What's the board's pleasure as far as change order 4?
Approve it.
The second? Sherry, you say this money is in the budget, it's in the contingent. Does this sort of deplete the contingent? Because we got a lot of building left to do.
We do have a lot of building left. No, ma'am, we still have contingency.
Okay.
We were aware in the beginning that there would likely be some problems in the street that we didn't know about. Some of them surprised us. We did run into an actual wall under the street that was a little bit of a surprise to everyone, including the city. So we've found some interesting things along the way, but the contractors have been really good at finding ways to work through it and get through some of the more exciting finds.
Maybe we're at a point where there won't be any more hidden secrets.
We certainly hope so, yes, ma'am.
Madam
So,
Chair.
I don't know.
Sherry, did I hear you say that we're out of the street?
We have one portion of stormwater left that's in a place we can't get to until we get a certain portion of the building done. So there's one small piece of stormwater left to do, but the majority of the work in the street is done, including the utility trench and moving the sewer line, which was the primary barrier that had to be overcome before we could start construction.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I always wonder why, when we digging, and why can't we find Blackbeard's treasure instead of a bill in the ground that says we got to pay more money?
I'm not sure, sir, because I think we found just about everything else.
Needs buried where he buried that. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I have one quick question for Sherry.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that is, how has this impacted the timeline of the project since all these treasures have been unburied?
Well, our contractor is working diligently to overcome the time constraints that have transpired because of this. So we're about 30 days behind schedule right this minute, but they're making them up very quickly with steel construction. Once they began with steel, the time frames have moved very quickly. So we're looking to make up some of that. In fact, they've worked weekends and done some other things to try to make up that time. And I think they're doing a really good job of that now that they are actually into the steel.
And our completion date was
It is going to be in the spring of 17.
spring of 17.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor of change order 4, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes item 5. Item 6 is appointments. Item A, Museum Advisory Board. The purpose and goal of the Museum Advisory Board is to promote the usage and awareness of the citizenry in the cultural activities sponsored by the museum, and the board shall assist the director in obtaining state and federal grants for sponsoring programs or exhibits or improving the museum. The membership of the Museum Advisory Board consists of 12 members who serve staggered terms and at least one representative from each township within the county. Mr. Randall Jones has requested to be appointed the at-large category with a term expiring April 30, 2019.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor of Randall Jones, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Item B, Motor Vehicle Evaluation Review Board. The Motor Vehicle Evaluation Board consists of 3 members who are available to address and resolve motor vehicle valuation appeals. The initial review of tax appeals is conducted by the tax office staff. If the taxpayer disagrees with the results of the tax office review, the taxpayer is referred to the Motor Vehicle Valuation Board as the second level of appeal. Decisions made by the local Motor Vehicle Valuation Board may be appealed to the Property Tax Commission in Raleigh. The current term for the Motor Vehicle Valuation Review Board will expire on May 2, 2016. Mr. Gary Lankus, Mr. George Bill Hitch, and Mr. Robbie Yates have expressed a desire to continue serving on the board and have provided a citizen participation application. Additionally, staff has received an application from Mr. Randall S. Jones for consideration. All applications are on file and have been certified by the clerk's office. Ballots have been prepared for the board's convenience. At this time, I'll collect the ballots.
Thank you.
Thanks to my foot, at this time, Deputy County Manager David Cotton will collect the ballots. Thank you, Mr. Cotton.
And while the county manager is tallying the ballots, I will say the board uses ballots only in those situations where there are more applicants than positions. The ballots are all signed and are available at the clerk after the meeting for review if anyone would like to see the ballots. We do it only for privacy for the applicants. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, for the benefit of the audience, the ballots have been provided as a convenience to the board. All ballots are signed by the commissioners, and they are all available for inspection immediately following the meeting from the Assistant Clerk to the Board, Ms. Heather Norris. The commissioners have chosen Mr. George Bill Hitch, Mr. Gary Lankus, and Mr. Robbie Yates to fulfill the terms for the Motor Vehicle Valuation Review Board. Item C, Onslow Civic Affairs Committee. The Onslow Civic Affairs Committee is composed of a core group of 23 members who shall have a demonstrated or stated interest in the Civic Affairs Committee or who can provide assistance to the effort. The Onslow County Board of Commissioners is responsible for 16 appointments to the board. The City of Jacksonville makes 7 remaining appointments. Staff has received a letter of recommendation from Mr. Rick Stout, Onslow County School Superintendent, to consider the appointment of Dr. Beth Folger as the school superintendent representative. The application is on file, has been certified by the clerk. The action requested is a motion to appoint Dr. Beth Folger as the school superintendent representative.
Second.
All in favor of Beth Folger, please say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Item D, Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission. The secretary to the Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission's Board of Directors provided a letter to staff requesting that the Board of Commissioners consider the appointments to the Jacksonville Onslow Sports Commission Board of Directors. During January, the Sports Commission advertised for nominations to the Board of Directors and the advisory group. No nominations were received. The advertisements were run a second time, and again, no nominations were received. Because of term limits, Greg Cooper, who had served in seat K, is not eligible for reappointment. Subsequent to the action of the Board of Commissioners last year, Bob Kellum resigned his seat, L, and Jackie Barton was named by the board to serve his unexpired term as the bylaws set out in the procedure. After careful consideration, The Jacksonville-Onslow Sports Commission Board of Directors nominated the incumbents below. Nominee Ms. April Clark for seat K for a 3-year term which would expire June 30, 2019, and Ms. Jackie Barton, seat L for a 3-year term which would expire June 30, 2019. The applications are on file and have been certified by the clerk's office. The action requested is to consider appointing Ms. April Clark and Ms. Jackie Barton in the specified seats as the Onslow County representatives for a 3-year term or for 3-year terms expiring June 30, 2019.
Second. All in favor of Ms. Clark and Ms. Barton, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. That concludes our appointments. No items were pulled from the consent agenda. This brings us to the 5-minute segment for public comment. Mr. Manager, do we have people signed up for the public comment?
We do, Madam Chair. This is the second public comment period. During the second public comment period, there is a 5-minute time limit. In accordance with the board's rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve their responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period at the end of the agenda. The first individual that signed up to speak is Ms. Lisa Williams of P.O. Box 165, Jacksonville, NC. Ms. Williams, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. My name is Lisa Williams. Good evening to Commissioner Williams. How you doing? Haven't seen you in a minute. All the chairmen, the vice chairman. I am a concerned citizen of Onslow County that is very upsetting to me. I was homeless for 15 months and didn't have nowhere to go. But the housing authority helped me as best as they could, because when I came on, they didn't have no funds. I had to call President Obama, and I called Governor Jones to help me get the funds here for Onslow County, because the housing authority did not receive applications for over 15 years. During this process, with me getting the assistance from the housing authority, it helped me become self-sufficient. I am a proud owner of a business. I went to school where I already had my diploma and everything. I went to college, still working on college credits. My concern about this move with the housing authority, and this is not no cussing, it's BS, bull snot. Georgetown has been there forever with the housing authority, with the daycare. My family is from Georgetown. I have a petition going around. I already got over 200 people. And I only done that in 48 hours. And I'm still working. Not only have I become self-sufficient, I'm out here, my concern about the veterans. They open up the door for the veterans. The homeless, they're not there to just give away money because they have no money. They have people on the list still trying to get assistance. Children don't know where they're going to eat at. And this needs to stop. If you want the board of elections there, find somewhere else for them to go. They have not been there a long period of time, but the housing authority have been there for years. Why uproot a community in a building that have helped the community? We're putting them somewhere else where it's supposed to be so-called across the street from the courthouse. For one, it's no accessibility to the parking. You barely could get to the courthouse on time. So what would you do with the people that's trying to get assistance or the appointments? This just don't affect the people that's trying to get assistance or receiving assistance or trying to become self-sufficient. This is affecting the community. And as one, we need to come together and leave the housing authority alone. This is also affecting the employers of the community of the housing authority. If they are moved, they do not have a job. Without a job, they can't handle cases of anyone that needs assistance. You got too many homeless people. You got people that don't trying to become self-sufficient, and this is an inconvenience to the community, and I vote against it. And I got 200 people behind me, and I'm still working on some more. Please stop it. and move the Board of Elections somewhere else. Keep them here. Next, you'll be putting a wall up. And I'm against that. We are taxpayers, and this is a voice. And I will stand and look at this room. Look at it. Nobody stood up for anything else, but I bet you if they stand right now, raise your hand. And that's all I got to say. Please stop it.
Okay, let me just, for clarity, go over the rules of procedure one more time. There's no audience participation. The people that come forth to speak, they have the podium to say what is respectful and what they wish, but the audience does not need to applaud, boo, or participate in the comments at that time. Please adhere to the rules of procedure.
And I do apologize, but Ms. Barber,
I
you know,
understand.
I'm hurt, and this is affecting the community, and we are against it. And I'm speaking because, on behalf of everyone, because 5 minutes, I need really 2 hours.
Well, I appreciate it, but our rules of procedure I have to
I
adhere to.
understand, ma'am.
So thank you, and we will ask the manager for the next speaker. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
The next speaker is Ms. Marcia Wright of 246 Georgetown Road, Jacksonville. Ms. Wright, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you concerning our local community action agency, Eastern Carolina Human Services Agency, Incorporated. I serve as chairperson of the board of directors in the agency and have been affiliated since 1981 when I was appointed by the board by a former county commissioner. Our agency has provided services to the citizens of this county for 51 years as part of the National War on Poverty that was initiated by President Lyndon Johnson. Every county and every state in this nation signed on to support these programs beginning in 1965, and they've grown in various capacities as community-based organizations since then. The programs include, but are not limited to, the Section 8 housing program, which provides safe housing for eligible low-income families, and they also include the mainstream housing for persons with disabilities, family unification program partnering with DSS to keep families together, the FSS program, Family Self-Sufficiency, which works to help people save to buy their own home so they can then become taxpayers and add to the tax base in the county. And we work with the Home Buyers Program with the City of Jacksonville, and also the Veteran Assistance Supportive Housing Program. The Supportive Services for Veterans provides assistance for those who have served our country and have returned with financial, housing, and personal issues that have to be addressed. The Community Services Block Grant Program works with clients to secure education, training, and assistance so they can become self-sufficient as well. Our Harvest of Blessings program is a food program that collects food from the local restaurants and redistributes that food to local shelters, such as Outback, Pizza Hut, and Chipotle. These programs not only benefit the clients, but also have a significant impact on the local economy. Every dollar that comes through that program recycles to the counties we serve. Small businesses sell us goods and services. Local landlords who work with Section 8 receive their rent in a timely manner. The property that they have is monitored, inspected, and assistance is provided with landlord-client issues. We work to move homeless veterans into safe housing, and we use local vendors and partners to provide bedding and household needs for them. Our employees pay rent, mortgages, taxes, purchase cars, groceries, goods, services, and continue to recycle those funds through our local economy. When hurricanes hit or tornadoes, we have worked with FEMA as a go-to agency to make sure that people who need the help can get their help as quickly as possible. We have worked well over 10 years to establish a daycare program, and it is recognized as a 5-star facility. Military and civilian families, we work with them as well as subsidized and private care clients. We have a local agreement with the domestic violence shelter to allow their clients to use drop-in care so they can keep their appointments, go to court, see their counselors, and seek employment. Our enrollment drops occasionally because of the fluctuation in the county population, but at no time have we ever considered closing our daycare. That's never been an option for us. In fact, one of our younger staff members developed a social media campaign, and we saw an immediate increase in our enrollment. I worked in human services for a long time, and I know there are people who don't believe these programs are necessary until they need them, but I feel fortunate that we do believe in a safety net. I mentioned long ago how I've been a part of this agency in this county for a long time, and I serve on boards and commissions, and I'm glad to serve whenever I want, whenever I can. I've lived in the same house since 1982, and I'm pretty well known, so I'm not hard to find. The Board of Commissioners here has appointed 5 members to our Board of Directors, and they are here tonight. These are the persons that you all have appointed to serve you on our Board of Directors: Gilda Quickly, Reverend William McCoy, Katrina Loudermilk, Teresa James, and Stephanie Daly. This agency has occupied this space for 14 years as an in-kind contribution, and the agency that is scheduled to replace us has been doing very difficult work under their circumstances, but we have an eviction notice that's in front of us effective July 1. There are things that we all have to do, and there are things that we all need to do, but there are also things that we should do. And we feel that we should have been included at any time possible, especially in the budget hearings, to have some input in this decision so that we all could have come together to come to some kind of resolution that would be for the benefit of all of us. I've told you before, and I'll say it again, that I appreciate greatly the constraints that you have when you're trying to do the work that you do, but it is important that we all have clear and concise communication between us, the community, all the rest of you, and all the public that we serve. So we're asking that our request is that you revisit this decision and that we are able to engage in further discussion about the situation. So
Thank
we
you, Ms.
appreciate the
Wright.
time.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. The next individual that signed up to speak is Mr. David Williams of 109 Shadowbrook Drive. Mr. Williams, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Yes, hello, David Williams, 109 Shadowbrook Drive. It's nice to see a big crowd here tonight. The other day, I put a letter in the paper, letter to the editor, and I'd like to just read a portion of it that deals with the board, in case you didn't see it. Law enforcement, with the exception of educating our young about drugs, is still our best option against illegal activities. For that reason, I recently went to the Take Back the Ferry rally. I went there to make a suggestion to the group that was in charge of that meeting to create a petition with the purpose of achieving 5,000 names on it to be given to our Onslow County Commissioners. It would say that the people would agree to a 1 cent per $100 property tax increase to be used to confront the drug problems in this county. The proceeds would go to both law enforcement and to a local treatment center, and it goes on. The purpose of doing something like that would be to inform you, all of you, of how the citizens who walk the streets every day feel about the drug issues in this county. If they come up with only 100 names, then you're doing a pretty good job, and the law enforcement's doing a pretty good job. If they come up with 5,000 names plus from all over this county, and they fill this room up, even though you may not agree to raise the property taxes to do it, you would get the pure message that something's not going right. And a bigger discussion about this issue needs to be brought up. And that's the reason I did it. In the letter, I said I would support it if they did it. To go on a little bit, I've been going to a lot of these meetings the sheriff's been having. They've been good meetings, and I've learned a little bit. The next subject I bring up is, I'm not sure if I'm correct on this, but you can maybe find out. Apparently, there's federal funds that may be available to be used in our Onslow County schools to teach our young about drugs while they're in classes and stuff. If they're available or not, I do not know. I never really looked into that much. Maybe you can find out. But if they are, those are taxes we've already paid. And if our school board, with the support of this board and our law enforcement here and our elected officials up the line, all get together and go after those funds, and we can apply those to our school system and teach our kids before they go out and put something up their nose, in their arm, or smoke it, or end up in the back of a sheriff's vehicle. It's always best to get to them beforehand than afterhand, in my opinion.
But I just wanted to bring that up, bring it to your attention, and like I said, to the citizens, as the good people of Sneads Ferry want to do this, I'll support it with a signature, and it would tell you what's actually going on in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williamson.
Madam Chair, that's the last individual that signed up for the second public comment period.
Okay. Thank you, audience. At this time, we will move ahead to manager's comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of comments this evening. I would like to thank the county employees. Recently, you may recall, we had a volunteer firefighter, one of our emergency responder family, that lost his home completely in a fire. He and his two children and wife basically had the clothes on their back when they got back home. And I would like to thank our employees who took up collections out of their own pockets to help that family out. Now I understand that that family is doing better, and in fact, they're paying it forward. There's another family that also lost their home, and so the cycle is kind of continuing. We are going to try to help out among our employees. Another one of our responders, for the benefit of the public that might not know, the Bear Creek Volunteer Fire Department, they ran into some problems, and had the county not stepped in, all the residents of the Bear Creek District would have gone to a fire class rating of 10, which would have made the homeowner's insurance go out of sight. So Onslow County created the first merged fire department with those volunteers. And so we have kind of a mixed department of both volunteers and paid staff members. And we kept the fire rating at a level 5. And it was from that fire department, the Bear Creek Volunteer Fire Department, that Mr. Preston McDaniel, one of the volunteers, was operating. And he was killed yesterday in a vehicle accident. So we do want to try to help out his wife, Crystal, and their 3 children. Other than that, we're moving forward with the budget, and we've been meeting basically daily, continuing on the budget. So far, we have riffed 16 positions. I abolished 1 additional position since the board had last met. It was a vacancy, and that other position will not be included in DSS. And effective tomorrow afternoon at close of business, we will also be freezing all vacant positions that are outside of 4 categories. The first, if it's mandated by federal law, we will continue to fill it. If we've made by that time offers and acceptance have come into place, in other words, we already have an agreement with somebody that they're going to have a job, we will honor that single agreement. Public safety will be exempted from the freeze. And then finally, in an effort to try to keep things as tight as possible, that freeze will continue on until further notice. So it may continue past July 1. Oh, and also one other thing, of course, we're trying to affect property tax dollars. So if there is a position that is funded 100% through grant money or through an enterprise fund money, then that position is also not subject to the freeze, because a grant-funded position or an enterprise-funded position does not help our general fund out. And so today I drafted that information, and that will be going to departments tomorrow afternoon. Madam Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Commissioner comments? At this time, I'll ask Ms. Williams if you'd like to start tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you that have come out tonight and sat through our meeting to hear all of what was discussed and getting to the points of concern that the community has. I certainly hear what you brought forth, and thank you much for bringing those comments, and thank you, Mrs. Wright, for bringing those comments as well. I know that this is a very hard decision for the community to accept, to deal with, to understand. I get that because of the service that you provide for the community and to the citizens. And when I see this and I look at this, I see it from several perspectives. I see it from, one, strictly a business perspective, which county government is a business. I see it from a community perspective because you're here tonight and you're stating that by your numbers, by being here. I certainly get that. I had a grandmother to call to tell me that she has 3 grandchildren there. And I get that as well, because individually, it affects people individually, and I totally understand that. A couple of things I want to clear up, because I've heard rumors in the community, we're being thrown out, nowhere to go. That's not true. I heard this is a black and white issue. That's not true. This is about a green dollar issue. And when you have to make the hard decisions, it's difficult sometimes to have to tell people certain things in the community, because if it was another way we could do this, but you also have to recognize that this move creates additional entities within the community in order to have some other scenarios taken care of that we're in desperate need of. You heard the county manager mention we got rid of a department, the county attorney. We're well over budget for the requests that have come in this cycle. And we have to look for ways and methods in order to reduce the overhead. The rent for the facility has been, for the nonprofit, $1 a year. It's a 6,000 square foot. If that place, if we had to pay for that, if someone had to pay for that, we would get income. That would be revenue into the general fund that we would be able to accommodate other matters in the county. But we're not getting that. I've heard comments on the other side of the coin where people have called me, have stated, why have you allowed this so long that they've gotten away with this? These are comments. The thing about that's tough for the 5 of us up here on any matter that's coming forth that's a very passionate concern for the community. Sometimes we don't like to make the decisions that we have to make because they are hard decisions, but they have to be made. And the comments that I heard on the other side, why have they been privileged to only pay $1 a year? We hear both sides of the coin here. That is very difficult for people on each side to understand, because there are nonprofits in the community, they are paying rent. They're paying lease. They're paying monthly payments each month. And so we've had phone calls in the community, I'm quite sure some of the other commissioners have had it as well, that have stated, why have they been allowed to have that much property for $1 a year and other nonprofits have to pay? So at the end of the day, you got to understand, we have a lot of voices in this community that we hear on both sides of the fence, the different positions. And there are good arguments on each side, and I get that as well. But again, business decisions have to be made to operate this community in all areas, in all matters. And, you know, I know United Way has availability of homelessness, the program that they have there. We have a veterans department here for the Veterans Affairs for our vets here in the community. So there's some of this that is duplication of service as well. It's not that there is nowhere for people to go. It is here. So I know I could go on and on, Madam Chair, but you know, I respect the fact that a lot of people have come out here tonight and you want to hear from us. And I just had to take that time to share where I'm at, and if possibly you can be given, you know, a couple of more months, that's something, discussion that the board would have to have. But, you know, I am open to that, and there'll probably be some contingency along with that. But, Madam Chair, I know I'll be here all night if I don't stop, so.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Jarman, would you like to have commissioner comments?
I'll pass at the time.
Okay. Mr. Bright?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to also thank all of the people that came out here tonight for whatever reason you come out to either be on one side or the other of the move. And Ms. Lisa, I appreciate what you had to say. We totally understand what you had to say. I have not heard any board member up here say that the program wasn't a very, very valuable asset to the community. I think it's very valuable, especially the Section 8 housing. And thank you, Ms. Marcia, for coming up and doing a superb job of telling us what you do, but I wouldn't have expected anything less of you and Ms. Daphne. I thought Ms. Daphne was going to speak too, but I appreciate you coming up and letting us know what y'all do, because a lot of people out here may not know what your organization does. But we're faced with such a budget restraint that we gave our manager instructions to produce a budget for us that didn't incur a tax increase, and we were facing, and still are facing, numerous hurdles that we have to satisfy, because we don't want to raise taxes anymore to put further burden on our citizens of Onslow County. And like Ms. Commissioner Williams had stated earlier, I went to like 3 or 4 functions this week, and I basically got attacked. I got attacked at those meetings from people that come up to me and told me, they said, we're a nonprofit and we want a $1 building. We want a building a year for $1. And that was the whole thing that I heard the whole weekend. And I've got phone calls, and I know some of the other ones may have got phone calls. But I think if we, as commissioners, and I'm speaking for me, I think if we can put our heads together with Daphne and the board and Miss Lattermilk and all the other board members that sit on that board, I think we can come up with a viable solution to maybe help both organizations out. Commissioner Williams did state something about maybe extending the time that you could stay until we can find something to put you in placement. But that's something that the board here has to decide on. I can't make that decision on my own, and I don't think anybody else can. So as one board member, I'm willing to listen and open my eyes and look at all the options that we have and see what we can do to come to some viable solution. But there's going to have to be some sacrifices, I can tell you, on both sides, because we can't afford to rent other buildings and put other department heads in and give one organization a building for free, basically. I'd like to be able to do that. And we have a lot of nonprofit organizations. I don't know how many millions of dollars we got that people are involved in nonprofits, but 45 nonprofit organizations that we try to help and support. And a lot of those organizations, we as board members sit on those boards. And a lot of them, we appoint people to sit on those boards. So I think we may be able to come to some viable solution. I hope we can. I've talked to several people, and I've mentioned some things to the other board members, but we really hadn't had time to actually sit down and work out any kind of viable solution. So maybe I need to shut my mouth up and let somebody else talk. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Vice Chair?
I have a few things, but I want to thank everybody for being here, and we'll take everything under consideration. And I've had several phone calls, both for and against. But it's all been said here by Ms. Williams and by Jack. But I have a couple things I need to do. And Sheriff, could you come up for a second?
Okay.
David Williams, I'm going to try to answer your question, I think. I hope. Sheriff, do we still have the DARE program?
We do have a DARE program. We also have a GREAT program. And the purpose for the public is to educate our young people to stay away from drugs, stay away from violence, and stay away from gangs. So we are working with the school system in cooperation and providing their needs, because as our young people grow up, they need to have adult leadership to keep them away from the drugs, from alcohol abuse, from gangs, and from the things that will hold them back as they become young adults.
Sheriff, thank you. David, does that help you? The other thing that I have is very dear to my heart, and almost all 5 of the commissioners up here, and this is mental health and law enforcement. We've got a problem. There's a need for some local solutions to the crisis in mental health. There is a real cost to the Onslow County Sheriff in handling mental health cases. In recent years, Onslow County deputies, Jackson Police, and officers have experienced the increase in number of encounters with persons who have mental issues. Because of the limited access to mental health services, law enforcement officers witness individuals' behavior degrading into criminal violations that require an arrest to be made. These behaviors have manifested some things in a variety of behaviors, including domestic disturbance, assault, alcohol and drug violations, and homicides. As a result, many of these persons have been funneled into the criminal justice system, incarcerated in a county jail facility behavior that could have been prevented if the individual had access to adequate mental health services. In some cases, officers have been required to use physical force to effect an arrest of these individuals. These dangerous encounters are a threat to the police, mental health, consumers, public. In addition, these incidents are emotionally challenging for the officers and require they face lengthy investigations, scrutinized, and criticized. In addition, our community has experienced a problem overutilizing emergency rooms by individuals with mental illness, a major reason and lack of access to crisis mental health care in our community. We understand there are many stories of people waiting days for connection to emergency assistance. Persons needing immediate help are taken to the hospital emergency department where they're unable to help, and sometimes persons have spent weeks waiting for help. I want to call on a session with law enforcement, the hospital, and appropriate county staff to help consider options for how we're using funds already designated for mental health today. This has been a big crisis for us, and Jack can elaborate on some if he wants. He's with Trillion, he sits on that board. But we've got a big problem, and it's a big problem to law enforcement. It's a big cost to the county. We don't have the facilities, and I don't know what we're going to do, but I think we need to come together as a staff and figure this one out. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll make a comment in reference to what most of you have come tonight to discuss. This board has never said that the business operation was not vital, that it was not needed, that it was not wanted. As Ms. Williams said, at some point in time, you have to pull up your big boy pants and make the tough decisions. And the tough decision is we cannot give away a building and go out and charge the people of this community on their property tax to rent facilities for us to use. You've just heard Vice Chair Buchanan talk about the need for a facility. There are facilities that are as vital to this community as any other. And this board is going to work to be fair, but it is also going to be fair to the taxpayers. So at this time, I would like to instruct the county manager to get with our new interim attorney and draw up what this board feels like would be an equitable arrangement of starting in July 1, a monthly payment and a lease agreement on a month-to-month basis, and perhaps extend the time lot to November 1, which would allow the Board of Elections to stay where they are through this election cycle. But after November 1, we would think that you had had ample time to find another facility. I hope that you're able to do that and continue operating your business exactly the way you're operating it right now. So, Mr. Manager, if you could meet with our legal counsel and draw something up, present it to their board for their consideration, and perhaps we can negotiate in a professional way the use of this property. Is there anything further that needs to come before this board? If not, at this time, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second? We're adjourned.